I'm Orlando Jones, and I just want you to know that the Moana Nui Podcast will be starting soon. Stay tuned, yo.
I'm Veronica Taylor, and from myself and Ash Ketchum, I just want to say, Moana Nui, I choose you!
Aloha mai kako. Welcome everyone to the Moana Nui Podcast. My name is Moana and I'm excited today to be talking about one of the things that Hawaiians love the most, food. And where can we find it, especially for those of us who live on the continent. So tonight we're Sorry, I could go for some right now. Who has a Pokeball, like a real one?
Yes, me and you both, sis. Me and you both.
Definitely. So of course, it's always good when Dana and I can be together here on the show. So good to see you again, sis. Welcome.
As always. And for those that are joining the show for the first time, of course, I'm Dana, the other half of the Moana Nui Podcast. And then, of course, we have our multifaceted, multi-talented, the founder of this podcast, the award-winning children's book author, also behind the new Lilo and Stitch comic book series. We have the other half of the Moana Nui Podcast, the beautiful, the multi-talented Moana.
Too much. Oh, but it's not about me. It's about the community. So tonight I'm excited to have our friend Matt Kamara join us tonight. He's going to be hosting and leading our show tonight. Matt is the founder of actually a lot of things. If you don't know him yet, the Frozen Ohana, that is not Hawaiian. He has a ton of awesome Facebook groups, some of the best Facebook groups I've seen run. It's not just like people spamming. These are engaging conversations and entertaining, educational, a lot of all kinds of different stuff. But if you're, a part of the community, you should definitely join him. Mahalo, Carrie. Pokeballs in Florida, not like Hawaii, got to coach the restaurant. Yes.
I feel you, Carrie. Same thing here in Atlanta. They be having salad bowls, not poke bowls.
Yes. There's one down the street from me, like 2 miles away, and I'm like, bruh, that is not it. So, but you know what? My advice is not free, so you gotta come talk story. But enough about that. Let's bring Matt on the show. I'm excited to have him. He's such a wonderful leader of conversations, and in this particular area, he has 3 awesome, amazing chefs joining us today from all different parts of the continent. So if you're looking for it, here they are. Welcome, Matt. Aloha, ikumamai.
Thank you for having me on.
Good to see you. Alrighty, so Matt's going to be leading our conversation tonight. If you guys have questions, comments, drop them in the chat. We want to hear those. I want this to be an engaging conversation. But with all that said, Matt, over to you. Aloha.
Right on. This is going to be a good one, you guys. We're really looking forward to this. So welcome to Hawaii Eats in the Diaspora, brought to you by the Moana Nui Podcast in partnership with Papa Ola Lōkahi. I'm Matt Kamara, as they said. And I'm really thrilled to bring 3 industry giants into this conversation with us today. We're going to hear from Chef Bronson Achiu, brother Kalanai Mack, one of the owners of a food restaurant chain that we'll be talking about, Mo Betta's Hawaiian Food, and the one and only Chef Kaimana Chee will be joining us as we explore the roots of Hawaiian cuisine and its global rise in popularity. How you guys doing?
Aloha, Matt.
Aloha. Right on. So I'm going to share a little bit of history, a little bit of reference to our 3 guest panelists here, and we'll get right into this. Chef Bronson Achiu, born and raised in Hawaii, McKinley High School graduate, 1971. Been in the culinary industry since 1968. worked at almost all major hotels in Waikiki, University Hawaii graduate, majored in marine biology before moving to California in 1981, where he mostly worked in the major resorts, large convention centers, specializing in Japanese, French cuisine. And he opened their third floor Anaheim, 1984, John Domino's, and 1988 in Newport Beach. So welcome, Chef Bronson.
How's that?
Moving on here, my good brother Kalanai Mack, born and raised Honolulu, Queens Medical Center. Hapa, dad was from northern Utah. Mom, local girl from Kauai, Hawaiian Korean. You lived in Alewa Heights, until you ninth grade, and then you moved to the windward side, where you graduated from the mighty Castle High School. James V. Castle High School in 1987. I got a lot of family that went Castle. City bus operator for Oahu Transit Services, the bus, 1991 through 1998. And then he moved, a wife and 2 children, to Salt Lake City. And the story really gets moving there. It sounds like it was a tough time, some Chapter 11 things. And, you did some Del Mar taco stand for one day. And then you moved right into it and opened up Mo Betta's in 2008 with your brother. So
I did. Yeah.
Everybody,
And
welcome.
Thank you for not referring to me as a chef, because I'm humbled. I am really humbled to be on with Bronson and Kaimana, because I'm not a chef. I am Zippy's trained. If you want to, and I learned from my aunties, and so I am not a chef per se, but I just love to eat. I'm like all the Hawaiians out there. Right?
Yep.
I just love to eat.
But the experience working at Zippy's in Kaneohe.
I did. I did during high school. Yeah. But that doesn't make me a chef. Nowhere close. But I like to eat. Yeah. So that's the extent of my training. But I'm humbled to be on here with Bronson and Kaimana for sure. I'm happy that you included me on this. So I'll share whatever I have for sure.
And that brings us to Chef Kaimana Chee. Chef Kaimana is the owner of Chef Kaimana LLC, executive chef of Uncle's Hawaiian Grinds, a modern Hawaiian restaurant located in Falston, Maryland. Over the last decade, Chef Kaimana has traveled to over 40 countries as a chef and brand ambassador for several companies, including Grounded Foods, Eat Just, Blue California, Ingredients, and Good Meat. A native of Hawaii, Chef Kaimana identifies his multi-ethnic upbringing as one of the key contributing factors in developing his passion for food, starting his professional culinary journey on a food truck nearly 2 decades ago. Chef Kaimana has since earned a collection of culinary accolades that include numerous television appearances, and this is where a lot of people might be looking at him right now on their screen saying, he looks really familiar. Where do I know him from? Well, here we go. Television appearances, culinary competitions. Among those highlights, MasterChef USA Season 3, Food Network's Guys Grocery Games, and Cutthroat Kitchen in 2021. Chef Kaimana was also an integral member of the first team to launch the commercial sale of cultured lab-grown meat in the country of Singapore. He is among the first chefs in the world to ever cook and serve cultured chicken. Chef Kaimana was born and raised in the towns of Hau'ula and Laie on the north shore of Oahu. He is a graduate of the Kahuku High School and attended Boise State University. Beyond his culinary passions, Chef Kaimana is the kumu hula for Halau Nohona, Hawaii, located in the DMV, the DC, Maryland, and Virginia region. Chef Kaimana is a published author of a children's book entitled Tots on Flavor, available through Amazon.com. Television appearances and awards. 2019 Critics Restaurant Award for Best of Baltimore, Maryland. 2019 Maryland Restaurant Association Chef of the Year finalist. 2018 Best New Restaurant, Hartford County, Maryland 2017 third annual Chef Chase Challenge. First place 2017 American Health Association's Featured Celebrity Chef 2016 Food Network Guys Grocery Games. Fan Favorite Redemption Tournament 2016 Food Network's Cutthroat Kitchen Season 10 Episode 11. Winner 2015 Smithsonian's Iron Chef Competition. Winner 2015 Food Network's Guys Grocery Games. Runner-up to 2015's Macy's Chef of the Cherry Blossom Festival. And 2012 Fox Master Chef Season 3 contestant. Everybody welcome Chef Kaimana Chee.
Mahalo, mahalo. Mahalo, everybody.
All right, so let's just jump right into this because as Moana and Dana mentioned in the beginning of the podcast, we love to eat. Food is a major driving force in so many different avenues when it comes to Hawaiian culture. So let's jump right into it. The roots of Hawaiian cuisine. We'll start with Kaimana. In your opinion, what are the roots to Hawaiian cuisine?
You know, I think when we look at Hawaiian cuisine and the history, right, chronologically, we have to look at pre-Western contact and then the initial contact in 1778 by Captain Cook and the Po'e Haole. And then we have to look at immigration that happened between 1850 and 1950, because those three stages brought different food to Hawaii, different cooking techniques, right? And so Hawaiian cuisine has evolved as new ingredients and new cooking styles and new techniques were brought in from non-Hawaiians or from non-Polynesians. So I think when we look at it, and I would love to hear take on this as well, because that uncle status over there, he was cooking before I was born, right? But you know, when we look at Hawaiian cuisine and what are the roots of it, it comes from what the voyagers from the Marquesas and Tahiti could bring on the boat, right? Didn't have protein, didn't really have protein on the island when they got here. So the protein that they brought, besides fish and seafood, never have land protein. So the roots of Hawaiian food comes from what could fit on that canoe, plus the vegetation and the fruits that were already on the Aina when they arrived. And we as Hawaiians, we often forget the poke we eat today and the stuff we eat today is not what our Hawaiian ancestors ate. Very little of it is what they ate, right? So I think to look at Hawaiian food, we have to look at all the people that came to Hawaii and everything they brought, and that's a whole long discussion. So I'll defer to my amazing counterparts to add to that. But we can go into the details of who brought what, and the Portuguese and the Filipinos and the Japanese and the Chinese. But it started right after 1778. People don't realize the order of things. You know, we had the whalers brought salted fish, which became lomi salmon, before the Chinese brought char siu bao, which became meonapua, which became manapua. So a lot of people don't know that history of the timeline of how things got to Hawaii. But I would love to hear everybody else's take on that. I don't want to take up too much of that time.
No, and those are great points, Kaimana, that I think are extremely important for us to bring up and share that knowledge with a lot of people, because as you mentioned, not a lot of people understand that. I see the conversation happens a lot, you know, in social media, because social media is so prevalent these days about what is Hawaiian food, and this isn't Hawaiian food, and this isn't Hawaiian food. And I think one of the biggest pieces that a lot of people may be missing is that Hawaiian food has evolved, like you mentioned, right? Because we all know that Hawaii it's an island in the middle of the ocean. And so with what wasn't already growing there had to be imported and brought in. So those are great points. Chef Bronson, anything to add on that? The roots of Hawaiian cuisine. You know, a big one I want to throw out is this. Poke. Poke. The conversation that I have a lot through the days, and I am far from any type of food aficionado or chef or anything, but I know that the poke that we see today, you know, cubes, sliced crosswise, ahi, taco, and etc. But from what I understand, poke at its origin was actually reef fish. And
That's correct.
that might be
That's
something
correct.
that a lot of people don't know. The refish
That's
was
correct.
actually scraped. So maybe
Yeah.
we could lead into that, Brunson, on
Okay.
origins of Hawaiian food.
Okay. So the Polynesians, all they had was an emo to cook. That's the basic right there. And then the luau's and all that came. But getting to the poke on the reef fish, that's actually correct because, with my dad growing up in Wailua, man, poke was inui nui. I don't know if you guys ever had that fish, but it's hard to eat. I mean, I got used to it. And then the scraping of the fish was the o'io and the ava. And we made that into lomi, lomi o'io, lomi ava, and then, of course, the Chinese would turn that into fish cake. So that's how I grew up with the inamona, the limokohu. We used to go pick up at Sand Island, as kids. Um, so I kind of grew up the old school Hawaiian way through my dad, I mean, eating pink poi. I don't know if you guys ever had pink poi. I mean, that's bubbling already, man, stuff like that. Ake, the raw liver.
It sounds like ake is I don't know, maybe for a lack of better words, but it sounds like ake is regaining popularity.
Could be, I mean, I've been up here so long. I mean, my dad's sister, my Auntie Ruth, was the king of making aki.
Yeah.
I mean, soaking in water for hours to get all the blood out. That's the main thing of making aki, and then making lau lau. Back then we used to salt our own butterfish. The butterfish came from Alaska. The black cod, up here the Howleys, they call them sable, yeah. But yeah, we used to salt everything, the even the short ribs for salt beef watercress. So, but the poke back then to the poke now is truly different. I think probably during the 70s it gained really big popularity because we used to go down to the Alamoana's Farmers Market on Ward Avenue, and then had Hailey's down there. Hailey's Hawaiian Food, which she's retiring at the end of June. Her lease is going up. She's in Kapahulu right now. But that's where I first got the taste of the tuna making like that. And unless you went to the Korean bars back then, because they was making poke like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm glad that we were able to touch on that. It's so when we take poke for example, we're talking about origins of scraped reef fish all the way through what we know as poke growing up to what it is now, and and you got poke still in Hawaii with a ton of different flavors and styles, and then you got these fusion type poke bowls that offer these toppings and fillings and things like that. And I'll tell you quickly, one of the things that I like to mention during conversations is that neither are wrong or right. It's just different. Some are different.
Yeah.
If we talk to somebody who grew up eating poke as inui nui, right?
Yeah.
And we're over here eating ahi poke, they might look at us and be like, that's not poke. And then it's the same thing that we're doing to people with these fusion style poke bowls.
Yeah.
So it's a good point to bring up that in reality, everything evolved.
You just gotta be open-minded. You gotta. That's the big thing about food. You gotta be just open-minded.
So Kalanai, coming from your perspective, what are your thoughts on the roots of Hawaiian cuisine?
I very much align with what Kaimana was saying. There is very distinct and very much the time periods are broken up to when, and I've thought about these things a lot, especially the history of Hawaiian food. And growing up, my grandparents are from Kauai, and they were salt harvesters. So I don't know if you know of the red Hawaiian salt that comes from Kauai on the west side, down on off of the beach near Hanapepe. The salt pond. Yeah, the salt
Hey, my
pond.
grandma them too.
My family had beds there, and they still have them. My cousin Michael Maderis actually runs those. But my grandma, I grew up with going there during the summers, and my aunties and my uncles, everybody would always take us down there. And I was just I was just a kid back then, and the only experience I had was helping them with the water and taking the water and putting it in the beds and this and that, and waiting for those salt crystals. But I remember listening to my grandpa, and my grandpa Louis. This is our family is the Ni'au Haleakala family, and that they're the ones that had those salt ponds, and we used to take care of the salt ponds. But my grandpa used to teach us that salt was pretty much the basis. So we talking about poke and stuff like that, and we talk about the Hawaiian salt that we use. And he taught me about the color, why the color of our salt there was red, because it was getting the red dirt from the alai there in the near the ocean and the dirt. And it was very special to Kauai. And he taught me the principles of how that salt cannot be sold. And I even have some salt sitting here in my office that my auntie brought the last time, harvested from when my grandfather was still around. And that salt is super almost sacred. Like that salt is hard to find, and it can only be given away, so we give to families and stuff like that. But I remember learning the principles of ancient, and just gaining that perspective of how how important the food was. And I have a friend of mine today that sails on Hokulea, and they talk about when they sail, and they the food provisions, and what Kaimana said about everything that came to the islands when Polynesians used to sail on those canoes was brought on the canoe. They didn't bring animals and stuff like that, because they had to sail. They had to sail, and so they fished, and they brought whatever they had, and salt was a big part of that, using to preserve. And so that would be my input in the ancient, just reaching back to those ancient times. And I know the Hawaiian salt that's sold today has that red tinge, but it's not harvested the same way. But I know that process, and I understand where our roots are, and humble beginnings, like these people anciently. We were hunters, we were gatherers. Most of the time, the men did all the cooking, the women were gathering, they were farming. And it's just amazing to think of our roots and how simple the roots. And we can go into talking about taro, and we can talk about all of those things. But my experience and my input would be from the salt, because my family is actually tied to that, and those areas. So very interesting. Yeah, very interesting.
No, definitely appreciate that insight, and you sharing with that. Here's kind of the cool thing. I mean, Kaimana really dove into a little bit of the history aspect, and shared a lot of knowledge that maybe a lot of people aren't really familiar with, that in depth. And talking about poke with Bronson and the straight fish, and then bringing it up to the Hanapepe salt with Kalani. That kind of leads us into the next question. And the next question is talking about the unique ingredients used to create Hawaiian dishes. And I guess when we say Hawaiian in this podcast, we can probably stick with more Hawaii local type foods. But you know what ingredients come off the top of your head? You know, you got ulu, you got hana pepe salt, maybe inamona, things like that. But what ingredients come to your minds?
Uncle, you're on mute, Uncle.
All right. Yeah, salt is one thing that's important, and then of course the seaweed, yeah, the ogo, the limo,
Yep.
and then the limo kohu. That's important. Either red salt, white salt for certain things. Basically, Hawaiian cooking, true Hawaiian cooking is just simple.
Yes.
No major anything. The soyu and all that came in the late 1800s when all the Pakes and the Japanese and Chinese guys came over. So that's when shoyu came over, and that's when the rice started, right?
Yep.
Right. So since I had family working in the cane fields back then in Wailoa, right? Uh, they all brought lunches in these canisters, these iron canisters. You take them apart, rice and whatever, had adobo in there and all kinds of stuff. I think that's how the plate lunch stuff got started.
Mm-hmm.
I truly believe the hamburger steak, it started in Japan and brought over to Hawaii because the real hamburger steak got a lot of stuff in it, got shoyu in it, got ajinomoto in it, got onions in it. I mean, that's the true, to me, hamburger steak, And I think it started by the Japanese, and that's how everything got started from those immigrants that came over in the 1890s,
Yeah.
And that's how that really all the mom and pop stores, right?
Yep.
Japanese run, kon sushi, maki sushi in the cases. You go in there and buy them, and then the okazuya shops got started like that,
I'm glad you brought those points up because that's something
Yeah.
that I really appreciate. When either me and you are talking personally, or I see on your Chef Bronson page on Facebook, Bronson does a great job explaining the ingredients, and really explaining it in a way that it's easy for a lot of people or even majority to understand. But he also does share a lot of the history of the ingredients, and learning what you're cooking to me just makes it taste that much better, right?
Yeah.
Coming into Kalani here from a business owner standpoint with Mo Bettas. You guys started Mo Bettas in 2008, and I believe you're at 50 locations, right?
Correct. Yeah.
50 right now. One thing that I do see and I do appreciate with Mo Bettas is you guys really do pay a lot of respect to the past, through whether it's social media or your decor or even, I wouldn't say it's ancient, but partnering with Aloha Shoyu for some of your items and things like that. So from a business standpoint, how do you incorporate, ingredients that you can't lack on? It might cost you a little more, but that's the right ingredient.
For us, it was really important when we first started. Me and my brother, we wanted to keep it. We wanted to keep it somewhat real. So we knew we were starting a restaurant here in Utah. So we started in Bountiful, Utah, in 2008, and we wanted to share a concept that was close to our heart, and it was tied to when we grew up. So we grew up during the 70s and the 80s, and what a wonderful time. What a wonderful time to grow up in the islands and partake of all these food. And I talk about, spending summers on Kauai with my grandparents and my aunties and uncles. And it was a great time. I meet people here in Utah that all they talk about is Elvis Presley and Waikiki and all the touristy stuff and pineapples and I didn't grow up with that. Like I don't know. In fact, I give them that puzzled look, like I don't know what you guys talking about. That's not the Hawaii I grew up with. And so we wanted to share, and I get that we were in, you know, like Kaimana was talking about, we were in a time, you know, just a very specific time. Growing up in the 70s and the 80s, I get it. Hawaii had this big boom, this tourism and all of that, but I didn't grow up with that. So we wanted to share, and that's why our restaurants, now that you guys know my Kauai connection, that's why our restaurants look very plantation. It looks very much Kauai. My grandparents grew up in a plantation home. And learning the history of the plantation, and Bronson was talking about how the food came about. That's where all these people came from. They came from the plantations because they came and immigrated to Hawaii to work in the sugarcane and, you know, work in the pineapple fields and all of that. And so I tie our restaurant to that, and I tie our food to that, because it is a part of history. That's whether we like it or not, whether, you know, I know there's a lot of, right now, the pineapple is not a symbol of Hawaii. And I try to teach people that. I teach our customers that. I'm like, you know, we don't have pineapple on our menu because pineapple is not Hawaiian. Yeah. That didn't come from Hawaii. Yep. And they're like, really? But we love pineapple. And I'm like, well, then you can go someplace else and buy it, because I didn't grow up with that. Yeah. I would eat a mango and guava before I touch a pineapple. Yep. And I explain to people, and I don't want people to think I'm some angry Hawaiian, you know. Yep. I try to teach them, and I'm like, I love pineapple. I will eat pineapple, but that's not what I'm trying to share with you guys. I'm trying to share with you guys the food that I grew up back in the 70s and the 80s, you know, and we're trying to keep it real that way. I get the whole tourist thing, and there's a lot of those out there. Yep. There's a lot of those out there, but we're trying to tie it to what we grew up with. We grew up with aloha shoyu. We grew up with rice, you know. We grew up with poi. I wish we could get poi, but you know, poi is so hard to get even when you're in Hawaii. So I'm not gonna pull that resource away from Hawaii, because our people there need that. But we can teach them. We can teach them just little things, you know, and talking about pineapple and stuff. And my customers always come at me. They're like, how come you guys don't have pineapple? And I'm like, sorry, that's not the Hawaii we grew up with. We grew up with a very different Hawaii. And you know what? People appreciate that. I think
they do.
People when they learn and they understand, oh, we didn't grow up that way, and they get it.
I think it's all on the approach, how you present it to the person. And you know, that brings us to Kaimana, because from a cultural standpoint, I mean, I'm sure you could go days on the topic, but before we get into that, I tell you, Kahuku has to be one of the most proud schools out there, because no matter, I'm on a podcast, I'm in a personal conversation, I'm on social media, somebody's got to come in with the Red Raiders for life. So we gotta throw it out to Peter out there saying aloha Kaimana. Aloha. Kaimana, quickly before we get deeper into the ingredient thing, I have a question, and it's something that is close to me, but I have a friend out here, her name is Jenna, and out here in Minnesota. And one of the questions that I have and she has is, with a celiac or gluten-free, off the top of your head, do you have any ingredient suggestions that could help someone enjoy Hawaiian cooking, local food?
Matt, really, the only thing really prevalent in Hawaiian food that has gluten is shoyu.
Okay, yep.
And now they have another option, right? Tamari. The Japanese brand Tamari provides that. But otherwise, you have to remember, we didn't have flour in Hawaii.
Yes.
So there was no issue with gluten. We didn't have flour. And, you know, the rise of celiac and the rise of that issue, it's not that it didn't happen in the past. I think that through technology and science, we can identify that as an issue now.
Yep.
But before I go to the next, I want to respond to what Kalani said and Uncle Bronson, because what Kalani made a point is Uncle Bronson grew up in the 60s and 70s. Kalani grew up in the 70s and 80s. I grew up in the 80s and 90s. So I have a different relationship with pineapple because my uncle worked in Wahiawa at the pineapple plantation. So the same way, and this is the same way you can say pineapple is not Hawaiian, neither is shoyu. Shoyu is not Hawaiian. Neither is rice, not Hawaiian. Neither is mac salad, not Hawaiian. So you can see, right, depending on where you grew up and what time you grew up, we had access to different foods, right? We didn't start putting lihimui powder on things till the last 20 years. And through the rise of lihimui powder, which somebody took the seed out, grounded up the lihimui, and it became our version of the Latin chamoy, things evolved even within our 3 generations, and we overlap in generations right here on this podcast. I do serve pineapple at my restaurant, but I educate people. The Hawaiian word for pineapple is halakahiki, which means fruit from a foreign land. So I think that we as ambassadors of food and stewards of the culinary industry and also stewards of the Hawaiian culture, I think one important kuleana is no matter what we serve and no matter what our approach is, that we allow for a teaching moment. Because I serve pineapple, but I tell people, hey, pineapple is not Hawaiian. It's not from Hawaii. Now, pineapple was a huge industry. It fed a lot of Hawaiian mouths. It gave people money. It supported my uncle. So I'm not mad at the pineapple, but I'm mad at people that call pineapple on pizza Hawaiian. You know what I mean? So we tread, living on the mainland, we have to tread this line carefully because we don't want to be, we don't want to come across as high mocks and, because even the 3 of us have a different growing up in Hawaii experience. I'm lucky because my parents were 14 and 15 when I was born, which means my grandparents had a lot to do with my upbringing. And my grandparents are a little bit older than Uncle Bronson. So I had the lucky thing of growing up with multiple generations because my parents were so young. And people my age didn't fish for aholehole in the streams in Hauula, right? Because I did that with my dad, with my grandpa, and, in the Iwa and all of that kind of stuff. But I say that in that no matter where we come from and whatever our opinion or wherever our perspective is in Hawaiian food, I think that the education part is the most important, because starting a conversation about salt and about why pineapple and about the original versions of poke, that we probably never ate the first version of poke that our ancestors ate, So I just wanted to make those comments because what is fascinating about this panel is we all grew up in a different Hawaii. Sorry that I'm off my soapbox.
No, those are great points, and I have a feeling knowing Bronson and Kalani that's the angle that they're coming from. Not angle, that's the perspective that they're coming from too. And everything is a teachable moment. It truly is, and being stewards of the culture, as you put it, is a great way to put it. And we do carry the kuleana to make sure that we are good stewards. That brings us to the next topic. And I think this is a great lead into the next topic, challenges of authenticity. So, talking about teachable moments and being good stewards, making sure that we're being pono in our conversations with folks, and we'll use pineapple as an example because it's what we were just talking about. Not really being negative about it, but letting folks know that, hey, pineapple does not make the dish Hawaiian. So what are some challenges that you folks have identified, and how have you approached them as far as authenticity in dishes?
I'll start with I have a restaurant on the East Coast, Uncle's Hawaiian Grinds. We opened in 2016. And I wanted to be as authentic as I possibly could. right? I wanted a place that I could bring my grandma, my grandpa, and be proud of it. And I would be proud if they could come there. They're past by now, but I had to, first of all, I had to realize I kind of get every ingredient. For the first year, my dad was buying luau leaves in Kahalu'u, taking it to Department of Ag. They got to go through all of them, put them in one box and send them, because I wanted lau lau on the menu. It's one of my favorite foods in the world. But I realized that it was a waste. It was, I'm not serving Hawaiians in my restaurant. 1 out of every 500 people is Hawaiian. So I need to use this restaurant as a way to introduce Hawaiian food and Hawaiian cuisine to Po'ehaole, but also be proud of what I'm serving as well. So balancing traditionalism and authenticity with a business. I think Kalani has maybe a different experience because get choke Polynesians in Utah. You can be more real in Utah. I spent a lot of time there. So his demographic might be a little bit different, or the percentages might be different. I'm serving 3% Hawaiians and Polynesians and 97% Haole, right? So I've had to make some give and take here and there, but that it comes with the territory. You got to go. I try to get my produce from farms within 100 miles from my restaurant, because I grew up in a makeshift farm. My grandpa had a farm. My fish comes from Cape May. It's the closest port to my restaurant in New Jersey. My ahi is driven straight from there, straight to my restaurant from the boat. So I try to do those things to show how food is important and sourcing is so important to us. But I've definitely had to make some give and take, and I refuse to serve poi because I'm gonna waste the poi, But yeah, I'd love to hear uncles and Kalani's the kind too.
Kalani, any input on challenges of authenticity?
I agree with Kaimana, and I'm sure Uncle Bronson will agree with this as well. At the end of the day, each of us is sharing a culture and sharing that aloha, that brand of aloha that we know, and we're sharing it with people that mostly are not Hawaiian. These are people that, and I would hope that that's who we're trying to share this with, because at the end of the day, we're business people. Like we're trying to make a living, and so we're sharing our culture, we're sharing our aloha, and each of it is a different brand of aloha. And you know what? That's okay. That's what Hawaii is all about. You hear people talk about how do all these cultures live on this small little islands in the middle of the ocean and they get along. Of course we get along because we share aloha. And at the end of the day, it's that love of community, it's that love of food, and that's why we share our food.
Yep.
I could venture to say that Chef Bronson and Chef Kaimana, at the very least, you do this out of love. That's what probably drove you to become a chef, because you love to share and manifest that through food. And I mean, it really is. And I don't know how much more authentic it can be than sharing that aloha through our food. And Kamana's right. We do have different periods, different time, and teaching people that, putting pineapple on pizza doesn't make it Hawaiian. We all can laugh about that. And we do laugh about that. Local people, we laugh about that, and but it doesn't, at the end of the day, I mean, they still sell that pizza in Hawaii and we all eat it. Like we don't care. Like it doesn't, because we all aloha each other, right? We aloha each other, and it's important that we teach. And I love that Kaimana teaches the Haole people, wherever he is, you just teach them, and the more they know, and the more they feel aloha. At the end of the day, we're teaching aloha. We're sharing our brand of aloha, and that's what people remember. They might eat the food and they might remember this and that or whatever, but it's how they feel, right? And at the end of the day, it's aloha that we're sharing, and that we're giving to people. So that's what I would say as we try to be authentic in different time periods, and it's hard. It's hard to narrow that in. And I have so many local people that come in. They're like, how come you guys don't have beef stew and poi and poke and this and that? And I'm like, I tell them honestly, I'm lazy. That's why I don't want to cook that much stuff. I just cook what we cook, and that's it. And I let somebody else share their aloha through a different type of authenticity or a different menu, and that's what makes the world go around. Like we can all share that aloha, but I think at the end of the day, we sharing aloha and we sharing our love through food. So.
Here's a cool thing that I always think about too when it comes to authenticity. We see chains out there, or we see establishments, eateries out there that they're just clearly marketing Hawaii and aloha and things like that, and it's just a profit mobile. And like you guys mentioned, you're in business. You're not in business to give things away, but there is that certain level of authenticity. And Kaimana, actually both of you guys brought up, us coming from different times, and Kaimana out on the East Coast, and Kalani in the Utah area, Bronson in the California area. We do all have different people, right? But one thing that I want to point out to the viewers right now is this: when it comes to authenticity, you guys aren't posting pictures of jumping in fake lays and grass skirts and taste the aloha and things. There's that, right? When we know that that's not authentic, right? And then you have Kalani and Mo Bettas, who partners with local businesses to the best that you can. You folks partner with Aloha Shoyu and do some things there. And then when it comes to Kaimana, we look at how his focus on sourcing, right? Farms within 100 miles, where his fish is coming from. Those are all local ways, right? So even though you're in the East Coast and you're in Utah, when we break the business down and we actually look at how you're doing things, in my eyes, that shows me the authenticity as well.
It's pono. Yeah, that's pono. That's the pono way to do it.
So talking about authenticity, we know that everything in life evolves, right? Whether it's food, language, the way we learn things. I mean, the way I learned 1 + 1, in 1992, and the way that my kids learn 1 + 1 - 1 divided by 3, and that whole new style of math in 2005 is two completely different things. But in the end, it equals 2, So when it comes to innovation through fusion with Hawaiian food, I just kind of want to get everybody's thoughts on that, and we can start with Chef Bronson, coming back from really understanding the old school ways, we could say, and seeing how things have evolved into different fusion and things. What are your thoughts on that? It's a creative, right? Chefs are creative, and they come up
Uncle,
with.
You stay on mute, Uncle. You're on mute.
Yeah, I created, but it's a created dish, and so they take old school stuff and then do the fusion, and then sooner or later that trend kind of disappears and goes back to the old school stuff.
Didn't we just talk about this the other day?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds familiar.
Yeah. So, a good example is when I opened up John Dominus in Newport Beach. I mean, I tell you, this place is just packed every night. I mean, over $2 million a month we're making. I'm swear, I mean, from Thursday through Sunday, 550 dinners going out there. That's massive. But again, back in those days, I mean, this was in 1988, and the restaurant was just completely filled with haole people, but they like that kind of food because it's easy for them to eat, you know, and it's innovative, especially when you take the steamed fish out to the table and pour that hot peanut oil on it, and it starts to sizzle. So there's a character that when you do that, I mean, people see that. Oh, I gotta have this the next time. So the next time they come in here and they tell me, "Hey, you guys still get the steam? What was it, baby opaka pakas? You know, we used to get the 2 pounders, and then serve it like that out at the dinner table. You know." So and then also doing the poke at John Dominick's. You know, back then the shoyu and kadoya sesame oil and ogo and a little bit of inamona going out there for the poke, you know. So yeah, the fusion does work up here. I mean, almost everybody has it over here in California. I mean, you go to any of these plate lunch places, they got it, you know. But but then they always ask me how do I go back to like making old fashioned beef stew, you know. So I teach them how to do it, you know, and I said, just use the correct meat to do it, you know. So I teach them how to use a chuck flap tail. So that's the boneless short ribs. And I tell you, they only do it once a week, but they're getting $17 for that plate. And I said, you sell out, you sell out. That's it, you know. So and then other things, you know, like on my Chef Bronson, I'm actually showing people how to make lao lao because the taro leaf is available here in California. You know, I go down to Long Beach and pick it up from El Rubio Market, you know. So I have a couple videos on Chef Bronson showing people how to make lao lao, how to salt salmon, how to salt butterfish, you know. And then what I put in the lao lao, you know, pork shoulder, pork belly, taro, the stem of the leaf, you know, things like that, how to make it and fold it. Of course, I don't have tea leaf up here. I'm not going to spend $1 a tea leaf, you know, to go get it. So I just wrap it up in parchment paper and foil, you know, and then I steam it for like almost 4 hours because it's got the stem in it, you know. So, but I say the fusion is good for up here. I mean, I know in Honolulu they got it too because of that regional cooking stuff that
The
came
HRC.
on, right? With Peter Merriman, Alan Wong,
Yeah.
those guys, who else? Chef Marvel, those guys, you know. So uh, I say it's cool to have that little bit fusion here and there, but you know, but then sometimes it dies out on certain places and then go back to the old fashioned
Yeah.
stuff again, you know? Yeah. So
Kaimana, from your standpoint, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I have a very different. You, Hawaii is the birthplace of fusion when it comes to the Pacific Rim. What is the
oh
most
yeah.
quintessential snack we eat in Hawaii? Spam musubi. That's fusion.
Yep.
You think when Japanese saw us putting spam in rice wrapped with nori, they were flipping the out, right? So this attitude that often prevails our fellow locals, and I catch people on Facebook complaining about this and this. Lomi salmon, nothing in lomi salmon is from Hawaii. That's all fusion. Chicken long rice, only the chicken had in Hawaii. That's fusion. The stuff, manapua, the way that it was made in Hawaii, is a fusion of char siu mao. So for us to turn our head up from, oh, that's fusion, that's hard because it makes us hypocritical as Hawaiians, right? The most popular things we eat in Hawaii is a fusion, and we should be proud of that because you know what that means? Like the pidgin language is a fusion, Pidgin language is a fusion. Our food is fusion, and it represents all the important cultures and immigrants that build the Hawaii that we know today. So when I hear about now, my restaurant is not plate lunch style. My restaurant is a little bit more kind of fancier Hawaiian food. So I'm making lihi moi bear blanc and lily koi reduction and this kind of stuff. And that's neither here or nor there. But fusion is just a melting pot of cultural and culinary traditions. When the Puerto Ricans came to Hawaii in the 1900s and they brought their concept of pastele, they didn't have all the ingredients in Hawaii needed to make pastele. So they had to fuse Hawaii available ingredients with the institution of the pastele that goes back centuries, and they had to make the new dish. That becomes a fusion. That's the patele we know today. Go to Puerto Rico. When you eat patele, it's different. So I embrace the concept. If that helps us reach more people and sparks a conversation about what are these two culinary traditions that you're combining, that's a teachable moment, and that's my perspective on fusion. And I would love to hear Kalani's as well.
And I'll tell you before we jump into Kalani, because I can see he's got something to say. Great point, and that's something that actually someone told me, Kaimana, a few years ago. I was asking questions, right? I'm in Minnesota in the Midwest, and I wanna go to the Asian store and buy kalo root and just try growing it. Our grow season here is so short, but what I'm understanding is I can at least harvest leaves a couple of times and then learn how to do the process, things like that. I was so set on acquiring a specific type of kalo that I overlooked everything. And I actually had one of the families that we first met when we moved here about 30 years ago, a Native American family, their mom looked me in the eyes and said, "Great, what would your ancestors do if they literally just showed up to Minnesota right now and they wanted to plant this? What would they do? They're not going to find a way back to Hawaii and bring it with them. They're going to find it here. They're going to source it here, and they're going to figure it out from there." So that's definitely a great point that you brought up. To stand back and talk about fusion and it bringing cultures together. What would the ancestors do? That's what they did. They brought everything together. And we can go back to plantation days and talk about how, the sharing and things like that brought it together. But that's a great point, and I appreciate you bringing that up. Kalani, what's on your
I would just add that I'm in complete agreement. Fusion is inevitable, and what a beautiful thing it is that we have fusion. When I first moved to Utah back in 1998, man, I got sick of Mexican food and burgers so fast, and I just couldn't find the variety. And coming from Hawaii, we have that variety, and how blessed we are to grow up there and to have fusion. And I don't know why other cultures don't have more fusion, but maybe it's because they have it in Hawaii, and Hawaii local people, we just love to take things and dissect it and just make it our own. And how beautiful that is, and how that aligns with what I spoke of earlier about aloha. Aloha is just love, and it really is inevitable. I think as we move along, and as we every time I go home to Hawaii, there's always something brand new that's come out, that's the newest thing, and man, I embrace it. I love running into that, and who created this? How I mean, you just take the spam musubi. How many different musubis is out there today? Like, it's crazy. You can't just leave it alone. Hawaiian people, we just don't leave things alone. We gotta mess with it. We gotta make it better. And it's wonderful that we share that with each other, and that gets all around, and just just in pastries alone, you think about all the different pastries. I cannot find pastries like that anywhere in the world. But you go to Hawaii, you have all these different pastries, and it's so wonderful that the culture is that way, that fusion is embraced that way. And I know our waistlines pay for it because everybody's all into the fusion. And that's a hard thing, but how wonderful that is. And when people learn about Hawaii's fusion culture and cuisine, oh, it's just a beautiful thing. And I tell others out there when they're starting out. So, I have a lot of people that come and they're like, man, how do I start a restaurant? I'm like, man, just dip back into what your grandma used to make. There's fusion all around us. And it's so easy to share that with others. It really is. Share the aloha. Don't think I only want to keep this for myself. We share it. We share it with everybody, and everybody wins. Everybody wins when we share our fusion, and it's wonderful. What a wonderful world. It really is a wonderful world when we can share that. So that's my 2 cents on that.
Talking about food, I'm getting hungry. So I tell you, Bronson brings something up here funny. Burgers no can compete with a good bowl of Simon and barbecue stick. I don't know. I grew up in Hawaii. I don't know if anybody remembers Bob Simon on Hawaii by City Mill. I remember going.
Yeah.
I remember going with my dad after baseball, Little League baseball. One thing I to this day I don't get it. Why does a bowl of Simon and a hamburger deluxe taste so good together?
It's that dashi, bro.
It's so this brings me to a question I think a lot of people would be interested to hear. Bronson, if you had to pick one dish or one meal, what's your favorite?
Yeah, it's gonna be that Simon
Simon
with cone sushi.
which are opai dashi.
So opai dashi. So that's why nobody makes the real dashi anymore. Too expensive. You gotta have shrimp shells. You gotta have dry opai to make the real Simon dashi.
Yep.
And $40 a pound for opai? I don't think so, man.
Yeah.
So, but in my days, Dad used to take us and go pick up the Simon with a pot.
Yep.
Never have takeout containers. And the best place I know of back in the days was Kinao Simon, right there on Kinao Avenue. But a bottled water supply. There's a place called Kinao Simon. But to me, Simon, man, no can beat Simon.
So we got
and
Simon.
Then the pockets would add the wonton in it, right?
Oh, that's. And like Kalani said, we just got to capitalize on it. So now we got hot mustard with it.
That's right. Hot mustard and shoyu, and gotta be Coleman's mustard.
Kalani, one favorite food, meal, dish.
I always go back to traditional Hawaiian food. I love my poi. I love lau lau, and I would add some spicy poke on top of that. I crave that all the time, and I can never get away from that. I love my poi and my lau lau. Yeah.
Kaimana.
I am a raw fish guy, man.
Are you?
I can give up every food. I can give up my pork and my beef and everything, but I can never give up raw fish. And the only thing better than eating a bowl of raw, whether it's poke or sashimi or a nice piece of toro, the only thing better than that is eating it with somebody you love and who appreciate just as much as you. Yeah. So I love eating poke with my brothers and my dad because they getting the same experience I feeling inside. When I take that poke bite, that's the same how they feel inside. And that's what Kalani said is right. We are ambassadors of Hawaiian food. And in turn, we're ambassadors of Hawaiian culture and the mechanism and the canvas we paint on is a plate. And I take that kuleana so seriously. So to hear from Bronson and from Uncle Bronson and Kalani and to hear their experience, man, it's so enriching and it's so amazing that we share this commonality, even if we come from 3 different generations. Food is magic. Food is a connector of cultures around the world. It is one of the few institutions in life that connect every single people in the world, food and music.
Yep.
And so, yeah, that's what it's about.
Definitely, 100%. So before we wrap up here, Bronson, where can people find you? What social media?
I'm on Facebook. Yeah.
Okay.
So to just look for Chef Bronson on Facebook.
Okay.
And then join it, and then it comes up in my email that so and so wants to join Chef Bronson, and we just approve it, and then once in a while my wife puts out the rules and regulations, but really it's that website is just about food, especially local style food. If you're gonna pick your beef tomato, throw them on there. I mean, I know everybody eat beef tomato or corned beef and onions, right? So it's nothing fancy on there. Maybe once in a while I might do an emulsion sauce like I did the other day with my anniversary breakfast. Yeah, I made shrimp with lemon butter caper sauce. So yeah, and so I do stuff like that. I try not to do too much emulsified sauces because hard to do those kind of sauces. Yeah. And then, I mean, once in a while I might do hollandaise from scratch, and I'll do a video how to start that hollandaise from scratch, and go step by step doing it,
Yeah.
just to satisfy my wife with eggs Benedict.
I love it. I love it.
I got to keep the Portuguese happy.
We got to say happy anniversary to Bronson.
Yeah, mahalo.
And check him out on Facebook, Chef Bronson. I appreciate the content that he shares and the recipes, and it's really old school, and he'll share with you. So thank you very much, Bronson.
Yeah. Any recipes you guys want, just send your email in Messenger.
Yep.
And because everything is in Word, I just attach it and send it out. Yeah.
And I'll tell you, the good thing about that is not a lot of people want to share recipes, and Bronson does openly share them.
I don't have on tight okole, bro.
Yep. And the good thing is that if there's a lot of interest on a specific recipe, he'll do a video and show you step by step how to do it.
Yeah, so I go live
great.
when I do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Kalanai, how can people find you, Kalanai?
The website is mobettahs.com, mobettah.com, and people can find me on social media too. I'm on Instagram and Facebook, and reach out. Like, I love to meet people. We're in our restaurant is in 7 states, and it's always great to connect with local people and find everybody. And so if you hear of Mobettahs coming to your state, please come meet us. We try to make it to all the openings and just to spread the the aloha and meet everybody. And I'm amazed to see how many local people are all over the place.
Yep.
And it's fun. It's just fun to connect. We basically all family because we love to eat and we're from the islands. That's what connect us. So I love to meet everybody. So yeah, reach out and say hello. Love to meet everybody.
Congrats on your 50th location.
Mahalo.
But at the same time, it's kind of tough. If you're at 50 right now, do you stop and just hold that 50 as strong as you can, or do you keep growing?
No, the business has evolved, and we have a CEO that runs it, and it's very much not the mom and pop that me and my brother started a long time ago. And we get it. We understand that's what it is, and we love spreading aloha that way. If we can reach other communities and bring just a small taste of island living to their neighborhood, then so be it. And we love to do it. So
couple closing things on Mobettahs. Number one, you can't miss it. The 21 window will be out there. right?
Oh,
You guys take it out there. So you guys got some really cool bugs that you go. And I still have not been able to put down that ekolu plate yet. It's
oh man.
it's 2 days worth of food for me easily. So definitely check out Mo Betta's if you're in the area.
Mahalo.
Chef Kaimana, where can folks find you?
KaimanaChee.com to book any kind of events or some consulting. Uncles or eatatuncles.com is the restaurant website. My Instagram handle is Kaimana77. And I cannot wait to visit Kalani's restaurant, and I cannot wait to cook with Uncle Bronson. I know our paths will cross. And if you guys are ever in the East Coast, please let me know and stop by. We have a big Hawaiian community here. I have Halau Nohona Hawaii here. And so it's such an honor, and I appreciate Matt's invite. And it was so great to talk story with you guys.
Yeah, definitely. Appreciate everybody coming out. Kaimana, I know a question that a lot of people are going to ask. Are people able to bring you in for guest appearances?
Yeah, anytime.
Things like that? Okay.
Anytime.
And they just reach you at those
Yeah,
sites?
Kaimana, yep.
Perfect. You know, we got to do this again. I mean, we could make this
I know.
15 episodes, you know?
I know. Hey, and I want to say, Uncle Bronson, I love that you share recipes. I have that. I also have that philosophy, right? When you hold something so tight, the stuff gonna crumble. You open up and let them fly, it's gonna get better. And you know, I'm all about. I want to taste somebody's Hawaiian bread pudding better than mine. I want to eat somebody's stuff better than mine, so I know how I can improve. And you know, and I feel that from Uncle Bronson. I feel that from Kalani. I don't think I'm the best. I don't think my thing is the best. I look for a better one because that's the only way to get better. And by Uncle sharing his aloha through his hard work and all of that, that is, Uncle, you know that is not, especially in the generation you grew up in. Unfortunately, amongst chefs, and I've been around this world working with chefs, that's not the common thing. But I think from Hawaiians, that is, and that's such a gift, Uncle. So I wanted mahalo and recognize that is so amazing.
Well, you know, my parents, you know, that's what they taught me, you know, especially my dad being almost full Hawaiian blood, you know, you gotta share.
Yeah.
And my mom too. I mean, my mom was real pake, but she said, hey, no, come to somebody's house empty-handed. Right?
Yep.
She gonna hit me on the head with a chopstick, man. You know?
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, I was taught to share. And that's right. If you don't share, all the old style stuff gonna disappear.
Yeah.
Which I think it has already. You know, because I get people emailing me, hey, how you make this old school, you know, and then it literally takes me 2 hours to make one recipe, you know.
Yeah.
So you know, I'm at the computer every morning, 3:30 in the morning, because that's what time I get up to go to the gym, you know.
Nice.
And I have to look at these emails and really look and see if I have it in Word. I mean, look, the other day I just posted. I said, "Hey, I finally found my mother's kauyuk recipe." Holy smoke! You know, I mean, I haven't made kauyuk in a long time, you know, but it's gonna come up soon.
We're gonna save that one for the next episode. We're gonna we got to do it again, guys. We got to do this one again. I appreciate everybody taking the time out to join us and be a part of this. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate you guys, everything that you guys do out there. So mahalo plenty, you guys.
Okay.
Mahalo, guys.
Mahalo, bro. Shoots. Okay.
Hello. All right. Thank you, gentlemen, once again for being on the show. We look forward to having a part 2. We'll definitely schedule it. Everyone who is watching live, and also if you're watching this on the replay, definitely if you want to keep notified of our upcoming episodes, especially when we have all these gentlemen back to continue talking about Hawaiian Eats. Make sure you go to YouTube, like, follow, and subscribe, and then hit that notification button so you get notified as soon as we go live. But you can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitch, most of those platforms. But we definitely thank each of you for your time and being on tonight's show. And we thank everybody for joining, and definitely tune in for our 8:30 p.m. Eastern episode with the opinionated Variant 616. They're going to be talking about pop cultures, new shows and series that are out there, and some steals and deals that some stores have of some of the things that we love. So everyone, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you all at 8:30 p.m. tonight. Aloha, everyone.
Yeah.
Hello.
Okay. Mahalo.
So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will.
If this the land of the free, it was a freedom then. When they annexed Hawaii and called it cedar lands, without any type of payment and no signing off. Called themselves the Republic in 1894. 1.2 million acres overtaken from the Native Hawaiians. When they resisted, the West retaliated in violence and erasure. The Hawaiian language is banned as part of colonialism's plan to expand, yeah.
Stuck between a rock and a hard place. Multiple bombings of Kaho'olawe. As a part of their ongoing war with Asia, used it as a place for target practice. No consent or compensation. Colonizers call for annexation. No regard for all the locals. School will never let you know. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. We will.
So if we put Hawaii into perspective, well, Black and Asian history is interconnected. Considering the fight with the Pacific, then of course versus Asia, they was treated as a middleman for war, but didn't let the Western colorism run its course. Cause dark skin was a sign of dignity to core. The land was taken in the name of capitalism, when prior to it was an actual kingdom. Clap back at the system.
Stuck between a rock and a hard place. Multiple bombings of Kaho'olawe. As a part of their ongoing war with Asia, used it as a place for target practice. No consent or compensation. Colonizers call for annexation. No regard for all the locals. School will never let you know. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. So many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. Too many stories left to tell, even if we have to ourselves. Can't keep history on the shelf. If we won't tell it, we will. We will.